everyone. Welcome to an episode of Willow and Julz. Today's topic is going to be the empowerment of women without the disempowerment of men. How you like that?
Exactly.
That's a good one. We've been talking offline about that quite a lot. So we figured we would bring it to the forefront and have a discussion,
Mhm. Let's get to discuss it.
get to discussing. All right. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is this narrative that is going around that women don't need men. Why don't we start there?
Oh, that was always a cute one. Go ahead.
Yeah, that we don't need men, right? And I am going to attempt to not just overly generalize, even though this may be the case, but it tends to be women that are, I'm not just going to talk about educational levels, but I think it's really about the financial independence that a woman has and
Yes.
how that correlates to her thinking that she does not need a man.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So, um, what are your thoughts on that? Why are we confusing financial independence, which should be celebrated,
Right.
right? Hey, women have financial independence. Woo. Why are we confusing that with, um, okay, then I don't need a man then. If I can pay my own bills, I don't need a man. Why do these two thoughts coexist?
I okay. So I would think that some of it comes from, well, you had the thing that the man was the head of the household, he paid all the bills, the woman took care of the house and the children. But that also meant that her, depending on the guy, gave her money to handle the household or anything else that she did. So it wasn't that she wasn't financially capable, but she didn't have her own income, right?
Mm,
Is that. And then depending on the man again, that having that financial hold over her gave him all of this power. Right. So I would imagine, and you can imagine if you were in that situation, that as soon as I got some money, I'm out of here, right? And I'm going to live in my now financial freedom and in my newfound power, right? And have that I don't need a man now, right?
mm.
Because now I have this money. So I could see some of it coming from that vein.
It is true. So I would interject and say number one, getting that financial empowerment and saying, see ya, buddy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm out.
Right, right.
You do not have this hold over me. There then sounds to me like there's this underlining issue with the relationship and the partnership that you had.
Exactly.
First and foremost, right? To feel like, oh, I can finally break free. I have the
Mm-hmm.
money to leave. That's no longer holding me back means that your relationship was not great.
To
And
start,
the,
exactly.
and the
The
power
foundation.
dynamics were not great. And I can tell you from my upbringing that I saw that firsthand, where I saw that my mom stayed in a relationship that wasn't healthy for either of them, but she stayed because she did not have financial independence.
Mm-hmm.
And what that made me grow up thinking was, oh no, no, no. I can't be that. I cannot repeat that. I need to find a way to make money. And at that time, my only out was like I have to go to college and get a degree and I need to get a job and I need to make sure that I have my own money because if push comes to shove and this relationship goes down the dumps, I am not staying with a man for 20, 30 plus years because I can't stand on my own.
Right.
So that was
So you're
ingrained
not
in
going
me.
to relationship for money,
Yeah.
and you're not staying for money. You so you know.
So so I think that there's that.
Mm,
But then you touched on the whole two income household and how that's a reality nowadays, right? I mean, unless you're the top 10%, top 1%, name just anybody that you know in your regular life, coworkers, family members, friends, whatever, that can withstand with just one income,
right.
right?
Um, I think I know one. one couple, but they're older, right? So
Okay.
it's like most of their stuff was paid for years back. They were still of the older, as in when pensions were still a thing.
Mm.
So they both received pensions, that,
Okay.
that
Well,
kind of
that
stuff.
that is
It
definitely the anomaly.
is definitely the anomaly because, no, the fact that they even both have pensions, that kind of scenario. Hmm. So it makes me think of arranged marriages.
Mm.
And as so this we don't need each other, right? Because men say it too, right? They don't need women that so this not needing each other. And then it makes me think of arranged marriages and when those work, right? Because you do need each other. And it's not and, and you need each other if you're going to have a family. For financially, if you especially if you both have income, you need each other. If for your goals, obviously the more income there is, the more you can get done, the better your life style could be, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't get the I don't need a man, but definitely comes from especially independent women. Most of the time, I think women that have already been hurt. Sorry, it's got to go there. They've already been hurt.
We have to say it out loud.
Mhm. You know,
Very much
um,
so.
it goes along that same vein as when a man or a woman's been hurt, and then they say, I'm done. I'm done with men. I'm done with women. Just what already?
Yeah.
You're just going to be alone for the rest of your life. But clearly you don't mean it, maybe so at the time. But it's coming from a place of hurt and not rational
Hurt,
thinking.
disappointment.
Hmm.
I would echo that. I was very much of the camp. I don't know that I verbatim said I don't need a man in my 20s, but I surely acted like I didn't need a man in my 20s, or at
Right.
least in my early 20s. I very much led a life with that narrative, and I think that go ahead.
And is that wrong? I mean, it's the maybe it's the term, right? To say you
Mm,
don't need a man, that type of thing. Because I almost want to say in your 20s where you're focusing on school and studying, did you really need one? Or, and so then you go, well, no, really, with your focus, but would you have liked to have been with someone as you're growing, that kind of stuff? Yes, right. But if you're not, so I think maybe the word need doesn't always fit. It sounds a little too strong,
that could
you know?
definitely be the case. I think it's also just the narrative, right? That you're
Right.
playing in your mind. How do you go from a narrative of I don't need a man, I don't need a man, I don't need a man to all of a sudden thinking that you can turn on a switch
And it's going to be
and
a man there for you.
there's going to be a man there
Hmm.
that is just waiting for you with this attitude that you have towards him, right?
Right,
When no one, I think irrespective of whether you're a man or a woman, people want to be needed and
right,
respected and valued. Let's just say valued. Maybe not
mm,
needed, but let's just say valued.
right.
And if we just attach someone's value to with women with or women with respect to men, the value is usually a financial value, right? Like what can you provide for me? Can
Right.
can you pay my bills? Can you, even if I had my own money, can you take on this load? And if that is the only value that you place on men, and realizing that the society in which we live in now has shifted so that so many of the jobs that and career paths that get celebrated are ones that are not so much blue collar, get your hands dirty, or those are not the ones that are making an exuberant amount of money. So you sit there and you're like, well, you don't have any value towards me, or for me, excuse me. You don't hold any value for me anymore. I can make six figures. You can't. Mm,
Right.
why do I need you? And then there's this narrative that's like, when do you get out of that narrative? When do you allow yourself to listen to other kind of thoughts
Right.
that actually start to echo the fact that men and women just coexist as part of this like larger ecosystem that we call the world?
Mhm.
We both play different roles and we both
Yes.
have value to bring to the table.
Right.
And is it that all men apparently damaged women back in the day that that like the younger generations or the generations that followed our great grandmothers or our grandmothers all were so jaded and just sat there and had this narrative that like a woman doesn't need a man and she needs to be financially independent. I have a hard time believing that every relationship was that fucked up, you
I don't
know?
think they were. I think, did you, well, see, here's the where our age difference comes in again. I was going to say, did you grow up watching All in the Family,
No, I did
right? With
not.
the Archie Bunker, and I know you did. That's when it caught me, right? So that's one of those relationships where, he's the head of the household, ignorant old Archie type of thing, or he says so Archie. Edith is the homemaker, right? He goes to work, the type of thing. But now they had this daughter, she grew up and now she's all about women empowering and that kind of stuff. And she can't stand to watch how her father treats her mothers. And she's always fussing with her mom. Mom, you deserve more respect than that. You're a woman, you're an independent. That's not her role. That's not the role she's comfortable with. Some things she did need to stand up for, and she did. And Archie, like, what's going on here? What's going on in this house? What's wrong with this woman? She's crazy now, type of thing. And
Mm,
I think that was probably the same way growing up. I think couples being together, having your kids together was more of a focus, right? If you got a woman pregnant or whatever, you married her and you'll stay together regardless. So I think if you would look at most situations today, if that was the norm, you would have a bunch of men and women in relationships where they did not love each other, right? They just did what they had to do because what they were supposed to do, right? So because now you're forced to stay together, you're gonna figure out how to get along. Mm. And I think in a lot of those cases, you okay, we have these kids, we have to be married, we have to be together, we learn to get along. And in a lot of those cases, I think you figured out how to love each other.
mm. The
Right? I
arranged
mean,
marriage situation that you brought up earlier.
sort of in that way too, because I mean, if you take not so much the arrangement, the fact that okay, this guy got this woman pregnant, and now he has to marry her because she's pregnant. Well, you wanted to be with her at some point, and her with you, so you did have something in common, even if it was only for a minute,
It
right?
wasn't
So
love, it
you
was
got
lust, but hey.
it was less, but you got something to work with at least. I mean, so you could work it out. But then again, you also hear those stories of once the kids were grown, you know, then the relationship devolved. Well, some of that because they didn't develop their own relationship, so they had nothing in common once the kids were grown
Mm.
and gone. But also I think a lot of that falls into that same. Okay, the kids are gone. I don't have to be here now. I don't have to be with you anymore. And I think there was an equal cases for that. You also had those stories of men that had multiple families. I don't understand how
And yet they
not too
seem,
far from each other.
I know, that always cracks me up because I don't take men as great multitaskers or like can manage too many things at once. Like I think that's the forte of a woman. Just um, so it's very interesting how they were able to manage multiple families.